I mean, it is rock solid. Guys, welcome back to part 2 of the dock build. If you missed part 1, don't worry. There'll be a link to that video at the end of this video. Perfectly okay to watch them out of order. It won't matter for this project. But if you did watch part 1, at the end of that video, you probably remember me talking about how everything I've used up to this point were just temporary fasteners, that I have final hardware that I need to put in place. Well, I've measured everything. I'm happy. It's true. It's level. So we really need to button this thing up. So we're going to be putting in our big carriage bolts, drilling some pretty large holes. We've got some additional lag bolts that we'll be installing too. And I actually went ahead and bought some stainless steel hurricane straps that I want to put down this center beam, because this lake has flooded in the past. And while I hope it doesn't happen again, I really want to make sure that if this dock goes underwater, that it doesn't come apart. That not only does it uplift out of the ground, but that center beam, which has far less attachments, doesn't try to remove itself from those cross members. Now, you also may recall that I talked about, I had some wild, crazy, redneck ingenuity, if you will, ideas of how I wanted to anchor these posts. Now, you may remember from part 1, I had mentioned bumping into a professional dock installer who told me if I could get those posts down about 4 to 5 feet in the ground, so long as I have good bottom, which I do, and I'm not doing a boathouse, 4 to 5 feet should be just fine, both for down pressure and for uplift if that should ever flood. Well, those furthest posts out there meet that criteria. And then coming down the line, I'm at about 3.5 feet, and then my middle set is only down 3 feet. And some of these front posts are only down 2.5 feet. And I'll be honest with you guys, the normal shoreline for my lake is pretty far out there. It's at a flood stage right now, and I'm hopeful that the water will return past that fence line out there, and most of these will be out of the water and never at risk of uplift. But the truth is, had that dock been in the water when Hurricane Milton came through last year, it would have been about a foot underwater. And so guys, I can't help but start second guessing myself. So I'm getting a little creative, and you guys are going to have to tell me whether it's smart or dumb, or could I have done it better. So here's the evolution of this harebrained idea. Once I realized these posts probably could use some help from uplift, I said, all right, maybe I can put some type of ground anchor system in, right? We've seen the ones where you can either twist them down or you drive a cable and you fasten it. And then I realized most of those only go down a couple of feet, and that's what these posts are already down and more. So then I said, well, maybe I can drive a piece of rebar through the post and create a pin system in the ground. And I really like that idea. My problem though is, how do I drill a hole through the post for the ones that are in the water? Answer, I can't, not with the tools I have. So then I said, all right, well, I'll just go down to the store and I'll buy some 2x4s and I'll just drive stakes in the ground, just like, you would if you're putting up a tent. It's temporary, but that's okay. I'll figure it out later. Remember, I'm still hoping the water leaves and uplift's never going to be an issue. Well, I went down to my local big box store, and they don't sell a single 2x4 that's rated for ground contact, meaning it's pressure treated, but the thing probably won't last a year in the ground. So I need to do better than that. So I said, you know what? Let me just go home and think about this some more. And I walk in my garage and I realized, because I'm a hoarder, not really, but sometimes it's worth it. I've got a bunch of this electrical, this EMT galvanized pipe laying around. I mean, a bunch of it. So I said, hey, I bet you I could do something with that. So I cut these down to 30 inches and I smashed the end of it to make a nice flat surface. And then I drilled holes in them. And then the idea is I'm going to drive this down into the ground at an angle to where that flat piece is sitting on the wood, and then I'm going to use galvanized shank nails to pin it into the post. And I'll have 2 of them anchored like this, so that if the post ever tries to come out of the ground, it has to lift these that way. Is that going to work? I have no idea, but I'm going to sleep better at night. And to be honest with you, I hope I never have to find out if it works. But you guys comment below and you tell me what you think of this idea. If you're thinking I need a nail gun, you would be right. You all right down there? You kind of fell over on me. I know some of you doubted whether I could drive those nails underwater, and to be honest, I did myself, but I was surprised. Good old-fashioned muscle memory took over. I could have put a blindfold on and drove those nails. I think you guys could too. This video is going rapid fire. I'm going to get you an underwater shot to prove to you I got those nails in. And while I didn't film it, every single post got 2 pins. Well, I now have all my permanent hardware in. That's the carriage bolts down here, my lag bolts up here, and holy moly has this thing tightened up. I mean, it was pretty solid before, even with the temporary screws, but even without the decking material on it, this thing, I mean, it is rock solid. Even as I go further out here, where the posts are a little bit further out of the water and the ground's a little softer, this thing is stout. I still have the 10-foot section to put in. I'll be doing that next. But I have so much more confidence in this structure now. I'm going to put the X bracing out there for all the reasons I already mentioned. I'm likely to do it on this section as well. But man, I mean, it is so solid now. It's amazing the clamping force that has when you do it correctly, right? When you put those carriage bolts in there. And of course, with these joists all tied in. And I don't even have this post tied to the next one out here. I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty pumped. This thing's gonna be super strong, especially once it gets that decking material on top, tying it all together. I lost my help for my 2 16-foot posts that go out at the very end, so I'm not gonna do those yet. I'm gonna have to figure something else out, but I wanna make progress, so we're gonna jump into the deck boards now. I set the framing of this to match my gangway that I built last year. So the framing is set at 44 inches, and then I've got 8-foot deck boards here that I'm going to cut down to 48 inches, giving me just a little bit of overhang on each side to hide some of those slight imperfections that are in the framing. Now, when you have any type of full-length board, you can't just cut them in half, guys. A lot of times, even though they're coming off of a mill, they're not going to be true. They're not going to be exactly 8 feet or exactly 10 feet. So, for example, if I mark this board at 48 inches, and then I come to the other direction, and mark it at 48 inches this way, I actually pick up a 1/4 inch here in the middle. So this board is actually 8 feet 1/4 inch. So cutting it in half would be a problem for me, because over time these boards would start to do this. So it really gives you two options. You cut them exactly to 48 inches on your chop saw right here, or you lay them down your framing the best you can, draw a chalk line, and do one rip right down the side here of your dock. The answer to that question is how much access do you have to actually make that rip, and how much do you care? Making that rip is going to give you the straightest cut, because it's going to take your saw blade cutting from one board right into the next. So it's going to be the smoothest, straightest transition from board to board. Man, I love seeing these first two boards go on after all this hard work. A couple of things I want to point out that I think will help you. I'm just using my square as a spacer. Now I don't have to do that. I could just butt these boards up. Because they're pressure treated, they are going to shrink. The reason why I'm using my 1/4 inch spacer is it just helps me feather the gaps, because these boards are not perfect. So for example, if you measure, this board is actually narrower here than it is over here. And that's why if you pay close attention in the video, I only used my spacer here and here, because down here it gets wider. Leaving a little gap will allow you to feather these as you go, especially if you jog a little bit. The other reason is I use this same 1/4 inch gap on my gangway, and with shrinking, those gaps are much larger. So I want to make sure over time that the gaps on this dock match those on the gangway. Another thing I want to point out is I'm using these stainless steel deck screws. Man, these will hurt your wallet. They will, they are an ouch to the pocketbook, but they are worth every penny, especially on these surface boards where water and rain can fall, land, and pool in the heads of these. And over time, even the coated screws will rust, and you'll see that rust on your deck boards. I wouldn't dare make you watch me cut and screw every single board. That would be way too boring for you guys, and I gotta get some work done. So I'm gonna put you guys on time lapse, and I'm gonna enjoy some tunes.
Well, you see me struggling with this 16-foot post, and it's quite laughable, but it's exactly why I needed help. but I am stubborn. None of this is for YouTube. You have to know me to know that this is exactly what I do all the time. I'm too impatient, and I live by this: if there's a will, there's a way. So my redneck ingenuity, or willpower, or stubbornness, or whatever it is you want to call it, kicks in, and then I find myself standing in a lake by myself, ready to crack my head open with a 16-foot post. Okay, to be fair, I didn't do it entirely by myself. I was so desperate for help, I recruited my 7-year-old and eventually my 5-year-old, but I just needed that one extra set of hands, somebody who could either hold the pressure washer handle or the post itself. Now, you eagle eye folks may have saw the 2 boards that I put about a third of the way up the post. That's the 5-foot mark. Those were not foot pegs for my son to stand on, which you see him doing here, although it just kind of worked out that way. I screwed those in for 2 reasons. One, I wouldn't have to keep getting in and out of the water to try to measure from the top to know how far I'm in the ground. The other reason, they're going to act like a stop if that post were to ever try to sink further into the ground, or at least make it harder to sink further into the ground. I can tell you, I have zero concern about that now. You're seeing just a couple of minutes of what was probably a 25-minute effort to put one post 5 foot in the ground. That ground is rock hard. I'm shocked because it's lake bottom. You would think it would be 3 feet amok.
No, it won't fall down, trust me. Oh my gosh, we're so almost there. I think I'm ready to.
You gave up.
Yep, well, I think I can live with it.
You may have heard me say, I think I can live with it. I got that board almost to 5 feet in the ground. I mean, it was just with an inch or 2 to spare before those boards would have bottomed out. The second post, we got all the way down. You'll notice it's shorter. After realizing how hard the ground was, I went ahead and lopped off 4 feet on that post to make it a 12-footer, to make it a little easier to handle.
Well, guys, I've worked my tail off, and I thought I was going to be able to get this project done in 2 weekends, and it just didn't happen. That's just how these things go. There's going to be a part 3 to this dock series. You're going to want to make sure you're subscribed, and you're going to want to make sure you're back for the next video, because I left you a little bit of a cliffhanger. You saw how wobbly those posts were. Was I actually able to get those stiffened up? I also need to make a repair and a little bit of custom fabrication for my float support on my gangway. It's going to be a great video. It's going to be finally awesome to finish this project up and put this thing to use. Guys, remember to spend time with your creator. He loves you. He wants to hear from you, and we will see you on the next one. Oh yeah, and watch one of these other videos.